Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Community Fairs with the Dalles Chamber. Our guest today is Valerie, I believe it's Egon. Is that correct? And she is with Business Oregon. This is our feet on the ground connecting to Business Oregon, which is a state agency. She's going to tell us a little bit more about that and how we can connect as local businesses and community members so that we can take advantage of the different programs and the tools. And there is so much that Business Oregon does for our businesses. So I wanted her to really be going into that. This is being recorded so that we can share it with our other business owners who are probably all getting ready for their business to open for the day. But before we begin with Valerie, we're going to go around the room, introduce yourself, the organization that you belong with, and then if you promise to keep it short, what is happening with your organization, because that actually gives Valerie a little insight as to what our community is doing. And we're going to start off with our guy who never knows how to retire, Scott McKay.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Lisa. I'm Scott McKay. I'm a community liaison for Circles of Care. Circles of Care is an initiative of Age Plus, which is a statewide nonprofit. And one of the other initiatives they're working on is a shared future for Oregon plan, which is basically a multi-sector plan on aging for the state of Oregon. And the multi-sector means it's not just for the social services planning, but to include other aspects of other ways, other touches to older adults, such as businesses and housing, and trying to coordinate all those different services. So business is one of the interest of the Age Plus as far as making sure they're involved in this multi-sector planning initiative for aging. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you. Phil Brady.
Good morning, everyone. Phil Brady, Wasco County Commissioner. A couple of things going on at the county. It's time for sports. The Little League season is going to have their grand opening this weekend, and I want to give credit to Tyler Stone of Robert. I just blanked on his last name. Our facilities crew. They really put in extra innings and hours getting the Kramer Fields ready in that time for the season. I was out there helping them move some sod myself. So I think the communities could be proud that, okay, we're ready. It's going to get better and better. The fields have been neglected for a while, but we're going to put them back in. I want to speak to something. I was thinking of Dan as his former editor, and wondering how many people read the public notices, because I was reading the public notices and something caught my eye. A meeting is going to be held regarding the Summit Ridge renewable energy facility. And let me bring up a map here, which is going to be, yeah. Can you see the map there?
Yes.
Okay, so this is Tie Ridge. And I'll put my cursor if you can see it here. Here's the doofer. Come out here, and I can't see, this is Emerson. I'm not sure which road it is. So this would be the area. There'll be wind turbines and solar panels proposed in this area. Now this down here would be Tie Valley. So I would be, this isn't going to be right on the ridge of Tie Valley. So if you come on 197, it's not going to be standing on that ridge. It's several miles to the northeast. There wasn't a facility proposed for this many years ago, and that proposal was withdrawn, and now it's being reproposed. There'll be a meeting for this coming up here soon, May 3rd, 5 o'clock in the evening. I'll put this in the chat at the Duffer High School gym. I'll just be honest. I'm in favor of renewable energy. I know it's sometimes considered unsightly, but I'm thinking in my terms of, we are people who are resourceful. We are people who live by our means. And if we produce our own energy, and I see that this is where my energy is coming from, that's a gratifying sense to me. It's like I'm doing my share. I'm not taking from somebody else somewhere else in the country where they pay the burden and I get the benefit from it. And I know people say we don't need more energy. It tends to be older people like me, my age, who say, "Hey, it was Groucho Marx? So what do we need to? Why should we worry about future generations? What have future generations ever done for me?" I have grandkids, and so my future generations do a lot for me. And so I see this is the direction we need to. We'll need a lot more electricity for our cars and even for running the internet and having meetings like this. That consumes a lot of electricity. Okay, so I'll drop that into the chat. That's what I work. Also, there was a tour yesterday of orchards. Housing issue is should orchards and not it's in large have more square foot per person in their housing. The orchardists here in the Dalles are saying we're making a good case that the people who come here are really families. And so we're building our things for families, and you can think like a family of four should take less space than four individuals. It's so a lot of the problems that are causing this are things happening elsewhere, like in the valley. The state folks were real clear about that people, the orchardists in the Dalles treat our workers well. That's what it's up. I'll leave it there.
Okay,
And drop the screen.
thank you. Dan Spots?
Thank you, Lisa. Dan Spots, Economic Development Officer for the City of the Dalles. First off, appreciation to Valerie for her work in bringing Business Oregon Industrial Recruitment Team to Columbia Gorge Regional Airport. I think it was last week. Time is going so quickly, but great conversation there. Oregon Prospector, the mechanism by which companies can identify and assess potential industrial sites, now includes Columbia Gorge Regional Airport. That is thanks to the work of Business Oregon. That has never occurred until quite recently. The fact that it's an Oregon airport that's in the Washington state, now we can look to that for industrial recruitment through an Oregon system, and that is really, really welcome. Other areas we're in the depths of analyzing urban renewal's remaining capacity as the current district winds down until 2029. Escalating cost of a long-standing project, First Street, is being a real problem right now and eating into whatever we have left in that district reserve. So we're doing some heavy-duty strategic discussions right now with the Urban Renewal Board, trying to figure out whether how we wind down that district. And then the broader question of, does the agency itself continue? Can we establish a new district after that? Western the Dalles certainly comes to mind. Other areas, the Children's Institute is a statewide advocacy group. Their team was in the Dalles yesterday, meeting with Superintendent Sublette from the ESD and representatives from the, boy, too early in the morning. I'm losing it. Child Care Partners, Nancy Patton from Child Care Partners and others on the team for the Columbia Gorge Early Learning Center, taking former Chenoweth Middle School, renovating that and turning it into a regional center. And I say regional, this was a topic of the Klickitat County Board of Commissioners workshop a couple of nights ago. There was a lot of chat box requests about the crisis on childcare in Klickitat County. And the answer was, we've analyzed it. We can't find an affordable way to provide it in the county. But Commissioner Lori Zoller, who is acquainted with our project, provided an overview of the project in the Dalles and said that, you know, we'd love to have something in Goldendale or White Salmon, but at least the Dalles is within commuting distance of a lot of people in Klickitat County. And so, you know, again, just speaking to that regional interest. Enough from me. I'm going to try to get my memory back. We were talking earlier about dementia. I'll blame the coffee, but I don't know. Take it away.
All right, thank you. Corliss?
Good morning, everyone. Corliss Marsh. I'm with Habitat for Humanity and the library and the senior center. Just a heads up, on Easter Saturday, the Friends of the Library is having a book sale, and our book sales are bag sales, and it's from 9 to noon, Easter Saturday.
Perfect, thank you. David Peters?
Good morning, everybody. Dave Peters, Mid-Columbia Housing Authority and Columbia Cascade Housing. We still have that open position for a developer. So if you know anybody that's worked on housing development, and probably actually any kind of development, we could train somebody. So send them our way if you have anybody interested. Thanks.
Thank you. Rob Garrett?
Morning, Rob Garrett, Mid-Columbia Senior Center. Excuse me, I haven't spoken to anybody all morning, I guess. My voice wasn't working. We've got a lot going on here every day as normal, but the big thing probably is coming soon. We have the van that we've just purchased last month is going to be decaled next week. And so you'll be seeing it run around town with signs that say Mid-Columbia Senior Center. So we're getting ready for senior trips. Also, we're getting ready to do the Cherry Festival breakfast on April 20th here at the center. And then after that, on May 4th, we have a shred event. So you might want to mark that in your books if you've got to get rid of all those tax forms that you just produced a few days ago. Send them, bring them down, and we'll shred them for you. Thank you. Mid-Columbia Senior Center.
Thank you. Brian?
Ryan Tuck, retired. Not much. That's it.
Great. Thank you. So with that, Valerie, it is all yours. You can take over. I will try to watch for questions if people have them pop up during the presentation, whether it's on the chat or they're jumping up and down in their seat, and so that we can make sure that those are addressed when you need, when available.
Great, thank you, Lisa. Yeah, and feel free to interrupt me if there are questions. This is pretty informal, so I'm just going to share my screen. Let's see, here we go. All right, does everyone see that?
Yep.
Okay, great. I'll kind of move to slideshow mode. All right. So thank you for this opportunity to present to this group. It's just exciting to get to meet a few new folks and see some new faces. I'm Valerie Egon. I'm a Regional Development Officer with Business Oregon, and I serve Hood River, Wasco, and Sherman counties. And so Business Oregon is the state of Oregon's economic development agency. I'm assuming most of you are aware of that, but kind of moving through this presentation, I'm going to talk a little bit more about Business Oregon and some of the many programs, and then a few projects in the Dalles and in Wasco County. And again, the breadth of the programs is so vast that it's kind of just a small snapshot, but happy to, delve into other things further if there are questions. So the mission of Business Oregon is to invest in Oregon's businesses, communities, and people to promote a globally competitive, diverse, and inclusive economy. And so how is this done? Well, through several core functions. There's rural community development, infrastructure financing, business retention, expansion, and recruitment, export, promotion, and international trade for companies that are poised to expand and expand their reach around the globe, industry, research and development, entrepreneurship and small business assistance, and support for arts and cultural organizations. And just zooming out, so the agency kind of focuses its programming based on regional service areas. So here's just the full map of the states, and there you see Region 7, so that's where I spend most of my time.
Actually, Valerie, your
Yes.
slides aren't advancing
Oh,
on.
they aren't. Oh my goodness. My apologies.
No, you're fine.
Let's see.
That we catch you.
Let's see if I can fix that. What if let's see, let's try this one.
Just try clicking on the next slide that you want down on the side and see if that brings it up. Where you're looking at the little thumbprints of the slides, try just clicking one of those and see if it brings it up.
Thumbprints. Okay.
If you have two windows, you might.
Yeah, how's that?
There you go. Now I
Okay.
see that. Yeah.
When I went to the slideshow, it somehow did
Yeah.
something. So we just won't use the slideshow.
Okay, we can do.
I think you're
Okay.
sharing your prep screen and not the slideshow screen.
Yeah, so, but you see the slide, right?
Yep. we do.
Okay, great. So anyway, there's our map of zooming out of the full state and the different regions that Business Oregon serves. And so, yeah, you see that north central spot. And then moving along, so you see this slide now?
Yep.
Okay, great. So again, there are many different focus areas of Business Oregon, and the regional development team is kind of at the front lines. So myself and then my counterparts throughout the state we're working with local partners and businesses so that they're able to utilize and access the programs and services offered by Business Oregon. And this work is kind of split up into two pieces. There's infrastructure and then business. So on the infrastructure side, we're working with communities on water, wastewater projects, whether it's planning or implementation, public works, brownfields, community development block grants, industrial lands, and as of more recently, childcare infrastructure, and even more recently, and it's not even, I think, signed off yet, is housing infrastructure that was just approved in the past short session. So in a year or so from now, you'll see that coming through as well. And then in terms of business programs, again, there's a lot, but some of the kind of prominent ones are the Small Business Sustainability Fund, which is a grant program, the Governor's Strategic Reserve Fund, another grant program that can be used pretty it's a discretionary grant program, so pretty broad use. The Entrepreneurial Development Loan Fund, which is clearly by the name, it is a loan funds that can be used in combination with private lenders, or if a business is just not quite bankable, this fund could also potentially support that so they can get their kind of foot off the ground. And then the Rural Opportunities Initiative, which I'll delve into a little more. So in terms of business development, these types of programs provide financing and or technical assistance programs to support business retention, expansion, and recruitment. The Small Business Sustainability Fund is a grant program, and grants can be up to $75,000 for eligible expansion projects. And that's those types of projects are typically going to be either traded sector or for businesses that are really key to the rural communities that they're serving. So if you know of any smaller businesses that are looking to expand their production, if they need some new equipment, if they're looking to just expand their space to be able to serve more folks, it's a pretty good opportunity. Free, nobody will turn away free money, but let's say it's not entirely free. This fund is intended to support a project, but it's not the primary fund source. So it has to be that $75,000 is roughly going to be 40% of the total project cost. The Entrepreneurial Development Loan Fund is, again, I kind of mentioned that earlier, but that is a loan program that will help startups and small businesses expand as they're trying to become more established in Oregon. So it can also support a variety of different types of projects. And unlike the Small Business Sustainability Fund, the Entrepreneurial Fund does not solely really look at traded sector business, but it can be used by a broader variety of businesses. And then another one is brownfields, which can be used, those funds can be used for development projects. It's low interest loans and grant financing for projects that require cleanup or remediation before they can kind of be developed. And kind of pivoting to innovation and entrepreneurship, strong entrepreneurial ecosystems often create more economic diversification for the local area, less dependency on other entities, and generally more better retention of the business profits that stay within the community. And so a couple of those programs would be the Rural Opportunities Initiative, which provides financial support and partnerships and focuses on network expansion so that the overall entrepreneurial ecosystem in rural communities can be strengthened. So it covers a pretty broad range of project types.
So Valerie,
Yes.
on that, do you guys have a set definition as to what defines a rural community? Because I've seen the rural opportunities very big and prevalent over in the Oregon Frontier Chamber area, because they are very rural. But is there a definition? Do you have to have a certain population or that in order to qualify for some of these initiatives?
You know, I don't know the answer to that, but I can look into that. I'm not quite sure. I think a lot of Oregon does qualify as rural, so.
Right. We're just
But
kind of
there-
in an odd ecosystem where we're so close to Portland. We have a little bit more population because we're a hub.
Mhm.
And we have a community college, so we are definitely rural as
Yeah.
far as our, financials and all of that and ag, but I would love to see if that's something that we can try to boost and make a bigger presence for that in this area.
Yeah, and actually, and I'm going to talk about this in a little bit, but MCED has received now 2 grants through that program. And so, while they haven't supported like the Dalles specifically, they have their projects through that program have supported the region and some Dalles businesses. Yeah, but I'll look into that rural definition too, just because it's probably good for me to know as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then research and development types of projects. So Business Oregon does have funding that supports projects that are at the nexus of industry and academia to support economic growth. So those types of projects are pretty broad in scope and usually entail partnership with a university. But they can support just a broad array of different types of projects, whether it's looking at, like different types of metal fabrication, or if maybe mapping a certain industry or sector to identify certain clusters of or subclusters within that sector. So pretty broad ones. One I'm actually looking into or just investigating, so nothing is set in stone, is through the Port of the Dalles. Andrea Klass has mentioned a few times that there's really no central or single map of all of the port system, and all of the ports, with their industrial lands, or the ports have such a great amount of industrial lands that it would be useful to understand statewide what that system looks like. And so I've just been starting to dive into that to see if there is any way we could kind of have a research project based around that. So TBD, but just as an example of one that a project that could qualify for some research funding. And a little bit more on the Rural Opportunities Initiative. So MCED has been awarded 2 grants through this program. They're in the middle of one right now, and their work in the previous round aim to reduce barriers for entrepreneurs through simplified lending applications, networking events, and an ecosystem assessment. And that assessment really helped guide some of the direction of this type of this work. And so moving forward, they're kind of using that as a way to identify other key areas and projects and programs that can be developed through this fund. So for example, last year, MCED held its first Pitch Fest with support through the ROI program. in which 28 small businesses through the region were able to participate, and the business areas really ranged from a broad spectrum, from light manufacturing, food production, and software. And Woodsy Craft Co., based in the Dalles, was the grand prize winner of the 2023 Pitch Fest. And they were awarded a $7,500 grant, which enabled the purchase of some new equipment. They were able to create a new sales and marketing staff position to kind of expand their reach. And then it also helped contribute towards their attendance at a Las Vegas expo. And I know you can get their craft kits now online, but they're also sold throughout the country in kind of DIY craft stores. So, you know, just a little bit of funding can really help kind of get that type of work off the ground. And then just kind of highlighting some of our key regional partners. I've already mentioned MCED, but they're really doing a lot of the implementation work. They're taking the funds through Business Oregon that they've been awarded and are then putting them back into the community through various different projects that they do. So they're just really important to us in terms, and a really great partner, because they're again, just the ones that are actually implementing these programs. And they also have, you know, the Gorge Technology Alliance, and a few other initiatives that really support entrepreneurship and the tech ecosystem in the region. And then there's the Columbia Gorge SBDC, the Small Business Development Center, which we work with as in terms of advising and support for business plan development, loan applications, marketing plans, and regulatory processes. And so a business that is pursuing either a loan or a grant through Business Oregon usually is required to work with the SBDC, just so that it helps with that, again, that business plan development and really looking at the viability of that project and ensuring that the project is poised for success. And then everyone else, that's you, our ports, cities, counties, developers, businesses, you know, there's so many different partners, and they're really the folks that are doing the grunt work of really trying to implement some of these programs and expand business opportunities in their communities. And that is it. And there's my contact info. Happy to connect with anyone, you know, offline or at another time. You're always welcome to reach out, share ideas, make connections. Yeah, anything we can do to help. And I will stop sharing. Let's see. And how do I even do that? Let's see.
Go down to the bottom where it saes share
Okay.
screen, and then you're going to just, I think you just
Oh,
click it
stop
again.
share. There it is
Yeah.
in bright red. Could have spotted that.
So there you go. I know they move all over, depends on what system you're on. So, so with that, do we have some, she's got the floor open for questions. Is there some questions for Valerie? So I'll start.
Mhm.
So I know that you work strongly with MCED and
Mhm.
SBDC. Is that normal in every community? Because I feel like sometimes I talk to other chambers and they're running that programs, and I'm wondering if that's because there's not an economic development agency that, or an SBDC present.
Mhm.
Is that the case? Sometimes I feel like, what can the chamber do? What can we do to be partnering with you better to provide that? But I see all the programs coming to those two. Is there some
Mhm.
things that the chamber can do to also help strengthen with our businesses and you?
I mean, you are kind of the link to the business community in the area. So when, you know, we're rolling out programs or new types of grants or loans are out there. It's just helping share that information and spread it. Like that can be such a huge help, because so many, small business owners in particular, like aren't really aware of the opportunities that are available, or maybe it can also appear daunting as well.
Yeah.
So kind of helping facilitate those connections can be really helpful there. And I do know, in terms of the SBDCs and the economic development districts throughout the state, that MCED is a really strong organization, and you don't see that in all parts of the state. It can vary just based on region, leadership, and some regions, just the way they are so big that it can be difficult for they're really large geographically, so it can be a challenge for the district to really serve every community in there equally. So yeah, I know, for example, like Gillum County is more interested in kind of becoming part of the MCED districts, just because they haven't quite felt like they're getting the support through their district, because that Eastern Oregon one is just it's a really broad geographic region. It's like the whole northeast section of the state. And then SBDCs are there's one within each of the service areas. Like, as I mentioned, a small business is required to work with one as part of some grants or loans.
Right. Yeah.
So there's going to be one in each region, and the regions are divided in the way they are so that they're able to there's a community college in each one.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bill, you have a question.
Oh, you're muted.
You're muted. You're on mute. There you
I
go.
got the right button. Thank you. I was working with the community of Pine Grove, and they were having water problems, and they were very pleased with the support they got from Business Oregon and also from USDA. And that's enabled them to get some grants and loans, and then they're going to, I'm really proud of the community. They say, okay, we'll pay back these loans ourselves, and they raise their rates accordingly. And so there's a great, just a very smooth process, which commissioners appreciate. They were, what I wanted, a question I want to ask about is they were especially grateful for the one-stop shop procedure that, and I don't know if that was Business Oregon or USDA or both. So would you describe that, how that one-stop system works?
Yeah, sure. So I'll kind of start at the beginning of a project, and I'll use Morrow as an example, because the city of Morrow, because they in the fall had a leak in one of their water tanks. Or actually, I'm going to switch from that, and I'm going to actually go to Maupin, because we have a one-stop coming up with Maupin. And Maupin also had a leak in a water tank. So they initially reached out saying, we have this leak, we need to fix it, but we also have this bigger water system project that we also need to get financing for, or at least understand the costs of what this is going to look like and how it's going to impact, at least on the loan side, how it will impact rates. So I worked with Maupin to kind of set up that project just so that it was poised for an application. So there's this pre-application process. And so that's where my work comes in, leading up to that. And then once we have that kind of basic info and we go through a peer review internally, we can then move on to a one-stop. And the one-stop is where you get all funding agencies together to look at the different programs and different ways they can be, the different funding programs and the different ways they can be combined, so that the community can see a variety of different financing options. So you have USDA usually in the room, you'll have DEQ and OHA in addition to Business Oregon. And so oftentimes the, ideal financing scenario for a community will have multiple financing streams. And so through that, they're able to understand what their ask is going to be from each agency. So let's say they, a project they'll apply for like 2 million through USDA and then 2 million through Business Oregon. And that one-stop process just helps them see kind of what the different scenarios look like in terms of financing and how it impacts their rates. And in the case of Maupin, their rates are currently really low. They haven't raised them in years. And so they know that they need to raise them. And so they've also kind of started a community outreach process just so that the community is informed as to why the rates are going to be gradually increasing over the next few years. Does that help explain it? Oh, you're on mute.
Don't want mine. Who are the government entities that we probably said? DEQ, who else?
OHA, the Oregon Health Authority, can sometimes be involved, especially if there's like a water compliance issue. And USDA.
And Business Oregon. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that it worked very well, and I was thank you. So would Business Oregon be the initial point of contact?
Yes.
Okay. Good. I got your number. Great.
Yeah. Yeah, and I just wanted to add another thing is that once the project is kind of at that point and it's actually a project, it kind of shifts from me and I'm no longer involved directly, and then there's a project manager that will take it on. I like to be still kind of aware of how it's going, because it's just good to know when you're interacting with the communities. It's good to know what projects they have and where they are, but I'm not going to be in the weeds once the project is actually in process or has been launched.
Thank you. Dan Spots?
Sure. So one of the things that Valerie has been active in quite recently, the airport submitted a Connect Oregon request for funding for additional hangar capacity over there. And Valerie, thank you for reviewing and your guidance on that application. Sure. That was very much appreciated. On that topic, my favorite topic in terms of bi-state cooperation is that regional airport. The Washington Department of Commerce there's a program called ICAP, and I am darned if I can remember what it stands for. I know it's Innovation Cluster.
The A is escaping me.
Accelerator.
Accelerator program.
Yeah, okay, yeah. All these acronyms, the older I get, the harder they become. But that is focused on technology sector, UAV, UAS. And so as we are actually like next week, we've got Oregon Aviation and Washington Aviation coming together at the airport to talk about, okay, perhaps greater opportunities for coordination among those agencies. We've been doing it kind of haphazard, I think, in the past with the airport. We'll go to Oregon Department of Aviation for funding. We'll go to Washington Department of Aviation for funding or other sources. Can that philosophy, do you think, carry forward in working between Business Oregon and Washington Department of Commerce, focusing in this case on the airport, but are there, I'm sure there are other regional issues by state. Are there any bridges, I guess my question, are there any administrative bridges between Business Oregon and Washington Department of Commerce, your counterpart over there? Over here, I'm in White Salmon myself. Oh, well.
I guess when you say administrative coordination then between the two agencies, there really isn't and hasn't been that much. And that is something I've kind of been thinking about. And also for context, I've been in this position for like 5 months now.
You hit the ground.
Yeah, because the region doesn't really stop at state lines. People live in one area and they work in another. People are crossing bridges all the time. And a new job in either Washington or Oregon it's a win for the region. The same with like a business expansion. And so, yeah, up to now, it has seems like at least programmatically that they're pretty separate. But yeah, I mean, it's something, yeah, again, I've been kind of thinking about how we can have maybe take a more regional approach. I know like in the past, there's been some reluctancy to even like with the airport to even really consider how the airport could be part of Business Oregon, and I think there's moving in the right direction. Yeah, but I would be happy to talk more and about ideas and ways that we could better collaborate.
And it might be on a case by case basis, but I sure appreciate your attitude and approach. When I was at the college, we worked with other state agencies, and the answer was no, we can't do that. Sorry. And so we had to go to the legislature and eventually said, yeah, you can do that. But Business Oregon has been open to this idea, and you very much are, and that is much appreciated. No, Lisa, you're on mute.
Rob.
I read her lips. I read your lips, Lisa. Yeah, I know. So, hey, Dan, speaking of hangers, if you need more hangers for that hanger space, we've got them in the new to you, 10 for $1. Let me know.
Oh, darn, I'll tell Jeff. Okay, well, I'll stop by. Yeah,
Come on in, we'll bring them over.
Okay.
Actually, I do have a legitimate thing.
I was wondering. Okay.
Honest, I did. I just wouldn't wait all that time to make a silly joke, but I couldn't help it. You said hangers and
Yeah.
anyhow.
We saw you roll with that.
I'll roll.
I'm an old editor, and I'm going to correct your spelling too. Hanger, Hangar.
I said it right. I spelled
He's in your closet, dude. All right.
Spelling? That's what spell check's for, Dan. So honestly, seriously, Valerie, when you said the word or grants were on your PowerPoint, grants made my ears perk up. My first question would be how can I make sure that I stay informed so I know when these things are available? Are they in cycles? How can I keep in the loop? Because grants are what make us thrive here. For example, the van we just received, it was a grant. The new lights in the parking lot, everything we get here, I'd say 50–60% of it's grants. And how can I keep in that loop? And is it possible for a nonprofit to be part of that?
There are, I think, scenarios where a nonprofit could be eligible. I mean, I would say that more in my experience what I've seen, it's more on the arts and cultural side is where nonprofits, there are some funding opportunities or grants for nonprofits. But I would say are you registered or signed up for our newsletters? Because you'll get updates there on when new programs are, opening, or if an application cycle is coming up. That's just a great way to be aware. And in terms of grants too, I mean, like the Small Business Development or the Small Business Sustainability Fund, that is always open. It's kind of just an ongoing program. So there are also different, some programs have set application periods and others are ongoing. So that's one that is just on a rolling basis, applications can be accepted. Some of the infrastructure programs have more specific types of, application windows. So like, for example, the community development block grants have 2 windows open, one in March and then in April, and then one in September. So it really depends on the program.
Well, I'll get connected through the, Lisa just put obviously that must be the link to get on the newsletter. So if I get on the newsletter, that'll give me more information about that. That would be interesting to see where we could go with that. Thank you. That was my question. And Scott sends me a text in the middle when I'm listening to you. Scott, turn your phone off.
Sometimes I wonder about you guys. All right, so what I did is I actually put a link to their newsroom, which has their most recent press releases and that such. Then there's also a link on that page to sign up, but I went and grabbed the link that takes you right to their sign up of their newsletter and information. So that way you can have access. We also, just so you know, in the e-blast, when there's grant opportunities, we try to put those immediately into our e-blast each week as we get them. I know we are on the normal, but I also know that Tom Schnell makes sure I get those other things that I don't always see in the regular quarterlies. So he sends me stuff that might be specific just to ag or just to this. And so we try to get those out to everybody when those opportunities come open. I will say, Rob, it is few and far between for nonprofits, but to keep your eyes open. The chamber has specifically done a foundation so that we have a peer 501c3, because as a chamber as C6, we are ineligible for most of the state opportunities, period. Because we have the ability to lobby and they have rules. They cannot contribute or grant anybody who can lobby on that, on anybody's behalf. Even if we promise not to lobby, we still have that ability. So there's some strict rules. So we opened up a foundation for the chamber so that we could possibly, but they've just not been a lot. There's quite a few for the for-profit businesses. So, but I will keep my eyes open as I continually do for nonprofit grants, and I'll make sure that we get those to you as soon as we find them. So that way you
Thank
have all the opportunities that you can, because you just make magic with those, and we want you to continue to grow over there. Like I always say, we have the coolest senior center in the state. We do. Nobody does what they do. So it is truly a pillar in our community. So I will continue just to keep a lookout for you, Rob. I promise.
Thank you, Lisa. And I'll try and get online with Valerie's webs or
Yeah,
newsletter, so.
it never hurts. There's always that one that may come in that fits a project that you're doing exactly. So you need to make sure you have those opportunities in front of you. So, and my job is to make sure that our businesses know of all these opportunities as much as possible. So we try to get those out as quickly as we can, as soon as some comes across my desk. If it's just to the ag community, I may end up, just so you guys know, you didn't see it, I may just email our farmers that I have that list for, or send it to our list that is at the OSU extension, because she has all their emails. And that is an easy, quick way for me to get into the ag's presence with what the opportunities are. So, but just know that those are some things that we try to funnel and get out there as quick as we can.
Thanks. And Lisa, that does remind me, and Rob, so the Hood River Valley Adult Center recently wrapped up a project that was funded or partially funded with the Community Development Block Grant, CDBG. And they are not eligible to receive those funds directly, but the county, it's the Hood River County, served as the sponsor and the fiscal agent for that project. So they were able to utilize that funding.
And was that for
So-
their kitchen or something
Yeah,
else?
that was their
Okay,
kitchen.
all right. Okay, give me an idea what they did it with it,
Yeah.
Not hangar space, like Dan,
Okay. Any other questions? Valerie, thank you so much. We just love having that connection. This is so important, and we'll be sharing this video once it's up and done. Give us a week, with our businesses, just so they know that they've got someone with feet on the ground here in our area that they can connect to. So Dan, you had another question?
Yeah, and I was on mute. I'm sorry, on CBTG. Valerie, it's my understanding that has to go through a city or county. Are there any other entities? Is only those two?
Those two.
Okay.
Mhm.
So that's something that I think we're in discussion with the county already. Phil, on that one, I know we talked about that a little bit yesterday. Josh and Matthew and I were kicking around CBDG. Let's circle back on that one.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. And Dan, keep us posted on that so that we know who can and what, and all those projects, being that they has to go through the city and the county. Sometimes that doesn't get trickled down to our businesses that actually are eligible. And if that's something that our nonprofit can, you know, depending on the project, depending on the thing, they're not eligible for a lot that can do some of those grants. So that would be great if we can build up some of that and get funds in their hands to do those projects rather than pulling it from our own community.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that would be great. So
Thank you.
yeah, keep
Good.
us in the loop on that. That would be that's amazing. Even just that little possibility is a little bit of hope for some of our nonprofits here in town. So if you do not have any further questions, I'm going to just do a selfish self-promotion for the chamber. It is all things cherry, as you can see. I'm trying to get myself in the mood. It is 1 month away, actually less than a month, 2 days less than a month away, which is crazy. There is so much that happens, and the chamber coordinates this event. We put it on, and so there's signups. There's all different kinds of things that you can do. We'll be launching even more signups today and tomorrow. And so just be watching northwestcherryfestival.com, or you can go to the Dalles Chamber. There's a little block that says all things cherry. Click on that. But we've got parades, we've got sponsorships, we've got little Royals contests going. We'll have window decorating. We have it all. But most of all, we would love you to attend and be a part of this celebration in our community. It is big. Be watching the Cherry Trail. Honda Toyota is sponsoring that this year. We're trying really hard to beef that Cherry Trail up so that our brick and mortars are getting just as much love and attention as the open air market and those different things that are outside and new to the community every year. So the Cherry Trail is for the purpose to help our commercial businesses that are already existing and making sure we get that foot traffic to them. So once we get details out, please help me to be ambassadors and really spread that opportunity out. That's my emphasis. It's all the other stuff happens. It's work, but it happens. But this is where we can get back to our businesses and make sure that they're having just as much commerce during that 3-day weekend as the rest of everyone. So that is my thing that I make sure happens. So be watching for that. And if there's any other things, any other questions, somebody that you would like to see as a speaker, just email me or call me at the chamber and we'll make sure that we get them on that list. And again, Valerie, thank you so much. I appreciate that. And you guys have now, you can sign up for their newsletter and be in the know just as quick as I am. And if there's anything that the chamber can do, please just send me a separate email. So that's like, look, we need extra help with this. We really want to push it. We will just do an immediate special e-blast and get it out there so that we can help our community with that pieces and parts. So with that, everybody, I'm going to give you 4 extra minutes. That means 1 extra cup of coffee or a run to the bathroom before your next appointment. So yes, Phil's on his way. Yes, everybody take care and we'll talk to you soon. We'll see you next Thursday.